Britt Baker fans, I got some more bad news to share with y'all. And in this video, we are going to discuss it. There's been a lot made of Britt Baker and her status, her future with All Elite Wrestling. She falls under the category of talent just simply not being used by Tony Khan and AEW. Ricky Starks, Ray Phoenix, Miro, the list goes on and on and on. This is just years removed, just a few short years removed from Britt Baker being at the very tippy top of AEW's women's division as its top star and one of its biggest stars, one of its biggest homegrown stars. And I think it's very important that we discuss her future and what is going forward. Now, I have come out and I have said, look, I think Britt Baker's time in AEW is up. She may not be, quote unquote, done with the promotion. She may have time left on her deal, but I also think there is a underlining of, does she make the jump from AEW to WWE? I think she does. There's one problem with that, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. I think WWE would be very interested in Britt Baker, and I think at least Britt Baker would want to have a conversation or at least explore the idea of potentially leaving All Elite Wrestling for WWE. Now, everything first started when Wade Keller of the PW Torch first reported that Baker is in the same boat as others who are not being used by the promotion, that AEW CEO Tony Khan is fed up enough that he's not using her, and should that change, she'll get a phone call from him and she'll be back on AEW television. Now, WrestleSTAR previously noted that those in WWE do not expect Baker to be available anytime soon, and Baker is not expected back on AEW television imminently. Now, Dave Meltzer noted on the Wrestling Observer newsletter, or wrote in the Observer newsletter, that Baker is not done with the company, but her future with the promotion is certainly uncertain within AEW, as they ought to not use her. So, with that being said, you have been caught up to speed. Now, before I get into this last line, I do want to make this clear because I've seen y'all's comments. The idea of Britt Baker going to WWE, I understand it's a little bit far-fetched, and I'll tell you why. She does have a dentistry career outside of her pro wrestling career, and obviously WWE schedule is a little bit more taxing. It's a little bit more requirement of time and effort compared to AEW that runs once, twice, maybe 3 times a week if they got a pay-per-view event. WWE, while yes, has reduced its television schedule, they still do run house shows, and what they've done is instead of running every weekend, they've just kind of thrown everything together. So they're going on like a 3-week tour over in the UK and international in Europe. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, here's the bad news. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select noted on Twitter, and I felt like this went under the radar, not enough people picked up on this, which was Britt Baker's deal is believed to have a year and a half left. Now, keep in mind, it has a year and a half left. Okay, great. Here's the problem. Just like Miro, just like Ricky Starks, just like Ray Phoenix, they could add time, and historically speaking, this is the case. AEW will tack on more time. They will tack on injury time. They will tack on time missed due to injury or personal reasons or whatever. So, realistically, Britt Baker, yeah, she has a year and a half left on her deal. But I don't see her leaving in a year and a half. I think she's going to be tacked on time, and that's going to prevent her from leaving AEW as soon as that contract is up. It could be 6 months that they add on there, right? She had a serious medical issue in 2024. She had a stroke, right? A young person having a stroke, that's a huge thing. That's something that you definitely have to weigh in. That's something that you have to discuss in terms of your future and everything like that, and what has happened. She's also someone that was brought back in June at Forbidden Door, entered into a program with Mercedes Moné, got a championship opportunity after winning one match, and then was used off and on. She was supposed to work, I believe it was a Fatal 4-Way on Dynamite, where it was like a number 1 contendership, and she had strep throat, so she had to be pulled from that match. She then looked like she was going to work a match with Serena Deeb, but that blew up, and we haven't seen Britt Baker in months. Now, I recently posted this on Wrestling News Co., but Chris Jericho did an interview with The Takedown, and he was asked about reports about Britt Baker's status, and he said you would have to ask Britt that in terms of what her future is. He continued, I haven't really heard anything either way, but I know she's obviously a valuable part of the company. She's one of the OGs, probably one of our first homegrown stars. I think she does a great job whenever she's in the ring. So I don't see her leaving or going anywhere. I'm looking forward to having her come back on the show because she's a great character and a great presence, and once again, a great fan base within AEW and with the wrestling world. Now, keep in mind, yes, that does come off as PR-ish. That does come off as defending the company. That comes across as there's no hot takes. But to Chris Jericho's defense, he's not just a shill. He's not just someone that's going to consistently defend AEW in terms of like, he didn't pull the Tony Khan of like, no comment. And it's like, is the sky blue, Tony? And he's like, well, I can't really talk about that, but thank you for asking. He didn't do that, right? Like this obnoxious thing. But the fact that he said that she is very valuable to the company, yes. She's one of the OGs and probably one of their biggest or their first homegrown stars. Yes, she does a great job whenever she's in the ring. Somewhat. Will she be leaving? He doesn't see that. I don't know. Here's a reason why I put a little asterisk, a little question mark next to being quote unquote great in the ring. As a Britt Baker fan, I will first and foremost admit, is Britt Baker the best in-ring talent that AEW has under contract in the women's division? No, and it's not even close. In fact, if you look at the signings in which they have done over the last few years, you can make a real argument that she is way down on the depth chart in that. What she does have is she a bigger star than a Deonna Purrazzo or a Camille? Yes. Is she a better wrestler than Mercedes Moné or Toni Storm or Mariah May? No. Is she a better character than Mariah May? I think Mariah may have overtaken that. She's certainly not as good as Toni Storm, as Timeless Tony, not the weird dimensional character that they finally wrapped up. So I think Britt Baker falls in a very weird category. I don't know if I think she fits in WWE from a storyline standpoint where she can conduct great storylines and great promos and great character work. But I also don't know if her in-ring work matches up with the quality and the standard that WWE has. Because I don't think it matches up with the match rate, the work rate, the match style that AEW has, right? So, and obviously, look, you say what you want about AEW, but I will say this. AEW, its ring style, its work rate, its match rate, it's a far and superior product than WWE when it comes to in-ring wrestling. WWE just has a better overall, they have better storylines, they have better characters, they have bigger stars, they have better promos, and their matches are really good. They're not great, but they're really good. So